point I wanted to ask
Right,
you
and
about,
that's,
Dave.
that's where
When
Dan's
you
come
look
from.
at Dan Honorato's commercials, you would think that he single-handedly is responsible for the Renaissance of Pittsburgh.
Right.
Is that accurate?
People from Allegheny County feel that he did a good job as a county executive and took some bold action. For instance, where he claims to have gotten rid of some of the row offices. He very much did put his own name and credibility on the line for that. Having said that, I think you're right. I think you put your finger on something that's very, very important. Maybe a little subtle for an election, but nonetheless very, very important. Every time I hear him, every time I've been with Dan, it's I. And with the problems facing Pennsylvania, the next governor better be about we. You know, it better be the General Assembly and I will work together. Working with the legislature, we. With the help of the Senate and the House, we can. I mean, if someone doesn't approach the General Assembly that way and understand that they are a full partner in this, they are doomed. And that's very much what's happened to Governor Rendell over the years, that even his own Democrat members of the General Assembly have grown tired of the kind of looking down on them, like he looked down on City Council as an inferior body. And as I think Dan Honorato looks down on the Allegheny Conferences, the Allegheny County Council as you know, they're part-time, they're inferior to me. I'm the strong county executive. And if he thinks that the governor's relationship to the General Assembly is the same, he's sadly mistaken. Jerry can certainly attest.
Yeah, definitely. Talk about that important branch. What do you see with the elections that came out of that for the House and Senate primaries, and how's that bode for changes in leadership or for changes in majorities going forward?
It's interesting across the nation. All of the political pundits have been talking about this is the anti-incumbent year. You can't prove it from Pennsylvania at any level. If you look at Pennsylvania, yes, Arlen Specter was an incumbent and lost. We had one state legislator who lost her primary. But Arlen, as I said, I think Arlen lost, and it was the party switch, and switching just to win, and kind of being more important than the job or the mission, that killed him. And I think that's the same thing with Karen Beyer, the state legislator who lost, who in fact openly threatened to change parties, was the only Republican member in the state house to be endorsed by the AFL-CIO. Was often frustrating not only her leadership and her colleagues, but more importantly her constituency with her votes. That they did themselves in. That was not the anti-incumbent spirit. And in fact, in some special elections, we saw that people were able to name their successors. We have two state legislators who were nominated to run for the state Senate, and the other open seat for the state Senate, a guy who's currently a deputy secretary of the DCED, was nominated. So we weren't anti-incumbent in that sense. Congress members who were primaried, all survived, and often were primaried by someone more extreme in the party, more liberal on the Democrat side, more conservative on the Republican side, and they survived those challenges.
And you get to a situation where there's two leaders of the two parties. You have Mr. DeWeese, of course, and Mr. Purcell, both under legal clouds, and they both survived.
Right.
How did that happen, Dave? There are a lot of people who didn't expect that to happen.
Well, you're right. Both have been indicted. Both will probably go to trial. I believe both are scheduled for trial before the general election. So that can make some things interesting, although you never know exactly when trials will take place. In Bill DeWeese's case, in southwestern Pennsylvania, Washington County, he faced a very strong challenge from a county commissioner who ultimately got 40% of the vote. He got 50% of the vote. But there was a third candidate that kind of emerged and got in there for reasons we can speculate about, who took 10% of the vote. Generally speaking, for an incumbent, and there have been exceptions. Former Senator Jubileer can talk to these exceptions. But generally speaking, if there are two challengers to an incumbent, that sort of splits the anti-incumbent furor. It was a head-to-head race for John Purcell in Philadelphia, in his district, in the Mayfair section of the city, where John Purcell was frankly a rock star. Now, he is also of that model of bring home the bacon, create the jobs, create the opportunities in my district, use the WAMs, use the power of the leadership to do things for my district and my people. And so all of his neighbors owe him something, and rewarded him with 75% of the vote in his primary. He faces a very tough general election. I think his general is against the brother of a recently elected Democrat state representative in a neighboring district. And I think that's going to be a tougher race for him to face. But yes, in both cases, their voters ostensibly said, well, we're not thrilled about what you did, but we'll give you another chance.
How will that reflect in the fall with control of the House? The Senate has a very big majority, but your views on that as well in these closing
Yeah, I
votes?
mean, it's impossible to think that the Republicans would lose control of the Senate. They have a 30-20. Half of the 15 of their members are up for re-election this year. Half of them don't even have an opponent. So I think we can take the Senate off the table. In the House, the Democrats have not only more members, but they also have Denny O'Brien, who's the Republican member who was Speaker for a while on behalf of the Democrats and votes with the Democrats. So they really need 5.
Who does he caucus with? Doesn't he caucus with the Republicans?
I don't know that he walks into any caucus room, but I guess he does. But the kind of the bottom line is with Karen Bayer's defeat, there's 21 open seats in the House of Representatives, but most of those seats are in very safe districts. They're definitely a Republican district or definitely a Democrat district. So there is one where Representative Lentz is leaving to run for Congress in Delaware County, where Barbara McElvain Smith retired. In Chester County, you have 2 Democrat open seats that are very much in play. But of the other open seats now, they're dicier propositions, much harder for either party to steal. So you have to knock off incumbents. Never say never, but I think the Republicans face an uphill battle to do that. And yes, if they lost John Brazel's seat, for instance, they already need 5, so they can't be losing seats.
And then in closing, how about the congressional balance? You sort of talked about the state legislature.
Well, the Republicans have the opportunity to get 1 back in the open seat where Joe Sestak has given up his seat for the U.S. Senate, the 7th congressional seat down Delaware County. Pat Meehan versus Brian Lentz, a current state House member. Pat Meehan, the former federal prosecutor who brought charges against Vince Fumo. I think the Republicans see a great chance there. Others, Ken Jaworski, Dahlkemper, that's where we'll go next.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much for being with us. And we'll see as the candidates prepare this summer for the generals in the fall. We'll want to have you back and see how the season shapes up at that point.
Great. Happy to
Okay,
do it.
thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for the chance.
Okay.
Good to be with you. Yep.
Thanks. And we'll go to our second segment of Behind the Headlines right after this.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by PAConstructionJobs.com, where you can look for job openings, post a resume, or learn more about a rewarding career in Pennsylvania's highway construction industry. And by the Pennsylvania Business Council, envisioning a Commonwealth in which residents enjoy a very high quality of life in sustainable communities. The Council works aggressively to define key long-term policy strategies and solutions that make the Commonwealth more competitive, creating and sustaining a better Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. By Weber Incorporated, a leading manufacturer of hardwood lumber and wood products. The Highway Equipment and Supply Company, Central and Northeast Pennsylvania's authorized distributor for premier construction equipment manufacturers. And the American Home Bank, a nationally chartered and FDIC-insured yet locally owned and operated bank in central Pennsylvania. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by Daily Express, transporting construction, farm, and industrial equipment throughout the United States.